Yo, what's going on, guys? The boy J12 and welcome back to the channel, man. Today we're going to be reacting to can you solve the hardest problem in NBA history? Let's get it.
The number one overall pick in this year's NBA draft, who would you pick? And just as
I'll pick
important,
LaMelo.
do you think you could make the correct choice? Anthony Edwards, Obi Toppin, LaMelo Ball, James Wiseman. Are you choosing a player that fills a role on your team, or are you choosing strictly based on the best player in the draft regardless of position? In some years, the decision is pretty clear-cut. But in other years, you could be one pick away from making a terrible decision that ripples through your franchise for years to come.
Yeah, I don't know what the
Basketball
Cavs was
is a team
thinking picking
sport.
Anthony
It takes
Bennett,
an
bro.
entire
It was
cohesive
tripping with
unit
that
to win a
one.
championship. But picking the best player in any given draft class can propel a team in the right direction for the next decade. So, who do you choose? Well, this decision is
Sometimes
not
I don't
nearly
think
as
it's safe
easy
to pick
as
the
you may
best
think.
player in the draft because Steph Curry was obviously not the best player in the draft, but obviously he was the best
Every
player.
once in a while, a franchise will use
So
the
sometimes you
number
just
one
gotta
overall
pick
pick
smart.
on a player that makes you scratch your head. Out of all the non-NBA prospects in the world, you chose him? I mean, there's got to be a reason why dozens of scouts, coaches, GMs, and millions of dollars worth of resources concluded that these players were worthy of a number
Bro,
one overall
Kwame
pick.
Brown,
And
Kwame
like
Brown.
myself, you're probably thinking,
I don't know, bro. Anthony
hey,
Bennett is Anthony Bennett gonna go down as the worst number one draft in NBA history, or would it be Kwame Brown? Andrew Bogut was actually decent before he got injured. You know, dude can't stay healthy for nothing. And Michael, I don't even know how to pronounce your last name. Pretty sure you was terrible as well, but not as bad as Anthony Bennett and Kwame Brown. Those two guys was ridiculously bad.
I guarantee I could make a better pick than this franchise. I mean, hindsight is always 2020. It's easy to sit back and say choosing Darko Milicic over Melo, D-Wade, and Chris Bosh was a terrible decision.
It was a terrible
17
decision.
years after the fact. But
Nah,
making the
nigga, it
correct
was the
choice
first
in
year after the
moment
fact.
is a near monumental task. Out of the last 40 NBA drafts dating back to 1980, only 12 drafts featured a number one overall pick that was actually the best player in the draft. That means even the most savvy NBA minds in the world pick the best player in the draft only 30% of the time. That's
What the
atrocious.
hell? Why wasn't Derrick
The
Rose
best
the
player in
best
the
player in
draft.
the draft? If it wasn't for injury, Derrick Rose will be talking about him being a Hall of Famer one day. Youngest MVP. Come on, man. Derrick Rose was the best player in the draft. Obviously, injuries happen.
Only 30% of the time. That's atrocious. Typically, GMs do a decent job as they work their way down the draft.
Allen Iverson wasn't the
But
best player in the
There's
draft?
just something about that first pick. In a 7-year stretch between 2005 and 2011, every single
Bro, like, I don't get this,
pick
bro.
was
I'm still not over this whole Derrick Rose stuff. So I'm pretty sure he's saying Derrick Rose was not the best player on the draft because how his career turned out. But Yao Ming was the best player in his draft. Yao Ming also couldn't stay healthy for nothing.
not the best player in their draft class. And even with more advanced statistics at our disposal, more film available to break down, and better scouting techniques, making the right pick today is just as unlikely as it was 40 years ago. Watching an NBA prospect up close and in person is a crucial part of the process, but for the sake of this experiment, I am going to give you 3 players and their college stats. Now, all 3 of these players were in the same draft, all of them one and dones. The Sixers had the first pick in this draft, and they already have a great guard running the point. With the limited information provided, if you had to pick, who are you choosing with the number one overall pick? I'll give you a moment to think about it.
Wait, did he say this? He said this is for the Sixers? Yeah, I think it was dumb of them to pick Markelle Fultz because they already had Ben Simmons. I'm not even sure how the hell they envisioned that, how that was going to work in the first place. So if he's talking about Philly, what they really need right now, in my opinion, is a guard. So I'm going to go with the 6'3" guard, 19 points a game, damn near 20 points a game. Yeah, I'm going to go with the guard, man. I'm not sure the forward is that important because they have Joel Embiid. Yes, he's a center, but nowadays, centers, they're not really centers. You know, they do everything.
So, Have you made a decision? Hopefully, you've made the correct one, because out of these three prospects, one of them has had by far the best NBA career so far. Now, it's still very early in their careers, but Jason Tatum
I
has
should have went with
himself as the best player.
Ah, damn.
very
Okay,
early
that
in
was
their
my
careers,
mistake. That was
but
my
one of them
mistake. When
has
I saw
had
the
by
forward,
far
I was thinking
Anthony
about
Edwards,
power
Obi
forward.
Toppin.
Damn it, I
Make your
ran it
pick.
too far.
League MVP. As we've discussed, one. So, which player?
Damn, dude, I'm
I'll
skipping
pick
way
an
ahead.
international player. One of here are Fultz
Come on,
with the
get
number
back.
one overall pick. It as the best.
All right, there
player
we
in
go.
this-
All right, so when I saw the forward, I was thinking about power forward. If I knew the forward was freaking a small forward, obviously I would have picked Jason Tatum, not the guard, but that's a fail.
Draft. Of course, making a decision based off of just stats is tough to do. But even with the advantage of watching the kid play, GMs and scouts across the league felt that he was only worthy of a third pick in the draft. If the Sixers picked Tatum instead of Fultz with the number one overall pick, it is very possible
They also
that
need a
would've made
small
trip to
forward.
the
Talking
finals
about
by
Ben
now.
Simmons,
But
Jason
making the
Tatum, and
correct
Joel
pick
Embiid.
is not as easy as it seems. So let's give this another shot.
Okay, so now that I know
Here
that
are
forward
three more
means small
prospects.
forwards.
This time,
Bro, this one's obviously easy. This is Giannis' body right there. You can't hide
all
that.
three players the same position. Here are their pre-NBA numbers. One of them being an international player, one of them being a 2-year college guy, and the other being a one and done. The team with the first overall pick needs a stretch forward that can space the floor and get the ball inside. Now, make your pick.
I mean, if you need a stretch four, obviously at that time no one knew Giannis was going to be who he is. Now, obviously, everybody would pick Giannis. But I'm obviously going to go with the guy that's not a one and done. I'm going to go with the 2-year college prospect. 16 points a game. To me, he seemed like he could stretch the floor. Also could play a little bit, a little defense. 1.8 steals a game. So yeah, I'm finna go with the 2-year college prospect. Don't get me wrong. Like I said, we all know Giannis is Giannis today.
So, which player did you choose? Well, hopefully, it was prospect number one, because this player is soon to be a 2-time league MVP. As we've discussed in regards to
So
some
the
picks,
Cavs
it is
coulda
nearly
had
impossible
Giannis?
to predict what kind of player they will become.
And they picked
So if
Anthony
you didn't
Bennett?
pick Giannis in this experiment, you're not alone.
Wow.
At the time, there was very little evidence.
But then
that
again, like
showed
I
that
said,
in
man,
just
Giannis
6
wasn't who he
years,
was
would
back
become
then.
The MVP of the NBA. In 2013, if you took Giannis with a top 10 pick in the draft, you would
Look at
be
this,
laughed
bro.
at and fired from your job. And in 2013, if you let Anthony Bennett slip past the 10th pick, you would also be laughed at and fired from your job.
I feel like you gotta think way ahead when you drafting
players.
players, man. You can't just look at how good they are in
This
college.
time around, we have 3 guards, each with their own sets of strengths and weaknesses, and all with very different games. In this situation, your team does not need a guard, but you know that the best player in the draft is going to be a guard regardless. So, who do you pick?
All right. So far, I've been failing the hell out of this damn quiz. Let's think like a GM. Do you pick the one and done, 19 points a game, 2.8 steals, 2.8 assists, 1.3 steals? Or do you go for the international prospect, 17 points a game, 7.6 assists, 7.6 rebound, 6.8 assists, 1.6 steal? Seems to me like a more all-around player. Or do you go with the 4-year college prospect that's scoring, that's a freaking scoring machine, but he doesn't do good at anything else? In the NBA, you gotta be able to do more than one thing. So I'm gonna go with the all-around player, the 6'7", 18-year-old guard. Got an ad coming up.
Have you made your choice? Well, in this case, it's far too early to tell who will be the best NBA
Yeah,
player in
LaMelo
years to
Ball is
come.
gonna be number
It's
one,
also
man.
tough to
It's
assess which prospect
you can
is the
see it,
best
man.
one because their
Men's all
circumstances
around.
and game
He's
are
long,
all so
a
different.
6'7" guard.
Experiments like this are impossibly difficult. You don't have the advantage of watching a player's strengths and weaknesses.
Edwards, he's really
unfold in
good,
front
don't
of
get me
your
wrong,
eyes.
but to me, he
But
seems more
it
like a
gives us
scorer
some
that's gonna
insight
fit
as to what GMs,
with,
scouts, and coaches go through on
Trae
a
Young.
daily basis.
But
Just
LaMelo
like the
to me
league
seems
itself,
more like
the
a
NBA
franchise
draft
player.
goes through phases. Like in the early 2000s, when the NBA went through its high school prospect craze. From the time the NBA was founded in 1949 all the way through the 2000 NBA draft, there were a total of 14 high school players selected in the NBA draft.
Damn.
In the 5 years following the 2000 NBA draft, there were 28 high school players selected in the NBA draft, peaking in 2004 and 2005 with 17 high school players selected in just 2 seasons. Of course, this was following the success of LeBron James, and the trend that followed was massive. NBA teams were chasing high school players like Robert Swift and Ricky Sanchez in hopes that they would land the next superstar. The draft was getting crazy. Only 5 times in NBA history has a player with no college experience gone first overall in the draft. All 5 of these picks came within a 6-year span. But the
Kwame Brown, bro, how good was Kwame Brown in high school, bro?
Is slim. Out of
Like, what the hell
tens
did
of
them scouts see in
thousands of
Kwame
potential
Brown?
prospects, the NBA draft narrows the pool of players down to about 80. 80
Wasn't it
guys
Michael
that
Jordan
have a
trash
shot
ass that
at
drafted
getting
Kwame
drafted.
Brown?
Out of these 80 players, 60 of
Michael
them
Jordan
will
is terrible,
actually get
man.
drafted. Out of the 60 that are drafted, 8 won't even play a single second in the NBA. Of the 52 that do see action in the NBA, only 39 draftees will play at least
Damn,
one
bro, that's
season
tough.
in the NBA. We are down to just 39 players, and we have only covered a season's worth of games of NBA playing time. Out of these 39 players, about 12 will average 10 points or more throughout their career. And of these 12 players, about 5 of them will eventually make at least one All-Star team. But here's the kicker. On average, only 1 in 2 draft classes features a league MVP. In fact, in the last 25 years, there have been just as many busts chosen with the number 1 overall pick as league MVPs. So,
That
you
was
have
a
the
really
honors
good
of
video,
selecting
man.
the first overall pick in the 2020 NBA draft. As optimistic as you want to be, odds are you won't select the best player in the draft. The player you do
No, you
select
gotta
has
go with the
about a
player that could do
75%
more than
chance of
one
becoming
thing at
an
least.
All-Star, and about a 1 in 5 chance of becoming a league MVP. But he also has the same odds of becoming a bust. You are in need of a lengthy point guard to bring a spark to your franchise. But then again, you have a shot at an NBA-ready 7'1" big man who looks to be the best player in the
I feel like
draft
big
regardless
men's now
of
overrated,
position.
man. Especially if you can't
Fan
shoot.
base is
Like
begging
James
you to go
Wiseman
with
is
general
good and all, but
consensus and choose the player who
I
is
just don't
projected
see
to
him
go first
dominating the
overall.
NBA like he is in
But
college,
the
like he
two-year
was in
guy
college.
that has proven time after time that he can perform with consistency.
Now the
and
league is
efficiency
more of a
is starting
perimeter
to look
type of
like the
game,
most
man.
Reasonable pick. 5 minutes on the clock, and your team is on the board. Make your pick.
I'm picking LaMelo Ball. Is that it? Well, there you guys have it, man. That was a really interesting video because most of the time we drill the GM like based on who they pick, but a lot of the time they pick the players based on how good they were in college. Like for example, you look at the Cavs picking Anthony Bennett over Giannis. Nobody now would have been able to predict that Giannis would have turned out to be possibly the freaking face of the NBA after LeBron James retired. No one. So yeah, man, like I said, interesting video. It makes you think deeper before you draft a player. Me with the 2020 draft pick, I'll draft LaMelo Ball, not because he's LaMelo Ball, but because to me, looking at his stats, he seems more like NBA ready. The other guys, they can score. They seem like they could fit good on a team, but as far as to be like a future MVP or future All-Star, I just think LaMelo is that guy. But let me know how you guys feel in the comment section below, man. This was an interesting video. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit the like button also. Appreciate you guys. I'm out. Peace.